My name is Christopher Kennedy. I've been at BLI for 4 years now. I decided to attend BLI partially due to the invitation from the president, Dr. Bailey, and partially due to the fact that I just finished my first degree in culinary arts and hadn't decided where I was going to go with my life yet. And so this became an opportunity to get some more education under my belt, learn more about what I believed, and again, figure out more of where I'm going with my life. I loved it. It's small, it's quiet, the wood is old, it was made by the previous students. There's a lot of history, which are all big things for me. There's a pond, so quiet place I can sit. I've always been a bit of an outdoorsy person, so that's about it. It was a bit weird for me. The only time I'd ever really been living somewhere on a long-term basis other than my house was military barracks during basic training and my advanced training. So living in a dorm was very different. I have my own room, which is also very different since I have, half a dozen siblings. I was raised with half a dozen siblings. So individual rooms were kind of a special thing, but it didn't take me long to get used to it. The other students were a bit diverse. We had our theological differences automatically, which was quite enjoyable for me. Because when I came, what I expected was everybody would be a Methodist, and being from an Anglican background, we have our slight differences, but there was also a Baptist student, a charismatic student, varied backgrounds in general, so it was very interesting. Everybody had very different personalities, but we all mingled really well together. My first year in general was probably my favorite out of all of them, and that was mainly due to the Wesleyan experience that everybody's required to take their first year. Because specifically with Dr. Bailey, he'd sit us down in a room, and again, we all, with all of our students having different theological backgrounds, he'd ask, what is salvation? Or what is this? What is that? And then we'd be required to come up with an answer and then support it from Scripture. And by doing that, we got confident we learned to be confident in our answers. We learned how to find our answers and be able to defend our faith, what we believe. And more than all of that, every Sunday we went to a different denomination of church. And so we got to see the different worship styles. And then on Monday, the day after the sermon, we got to have an interview with the pastor or priest of the service the day before. Where we got to ask whatever questions we wanted, discuss with them, find out why they did things the way they did, and then have them personally tell us more about their denomination and the things that they believe. So I felt it was a very, very important foundation to the rest of my 4 years here. I feel like the first year was probably the busiest out of all the years for student life. And that was partially due to the faculty and partially due to us students ourselves, because none of us knew each other previously. And so all of us are trying to find ways to get to know each other, to make connections. And so we did movie nights, we did board games. The faculty put on sports events and stuff, and different competitions for the students. So I really enjoyed it personally. Kept us busy and distracted us from any stresses of our studies, exams that are coming up and all, with that just the day or the couple hours of recreational break. Very varied. Each one of them has their own specialty and field of expertise, and it's very, very obvious once you get in a discussion with them. Their personalities also differed quite a bit. some being more scholastic, others more practical. So I felt it was very well-rounded, and because of that, their personalities and all, you got to understand which classes you felt like you personally would learn more from, under who. I feel like I had a decent handle on the scripture before I came. I was raised in the church. I've been to Bible studies practically every year of my life, some of them more in-depth than others. And so I had a very wide knowledge of the scriptures as a general whole. But as far as individual passages and which one, and like the understanding of the passages, specifically ones that dealt with different doctrines and theological beliefs that the church has, I had much less knowledge than I currently do. I feel like because of my time here at the school, I have a much deeper and broader knowledge of how to defend myself against others, answer questions, to teach, which is something I didn't have before I came here. I feel like my knowledge of God has grown, but my relationship with Him and the way I see Him hasn't changed as much. Again, the way I was raised, I had a very strong understanding of God and His purpose, His activity in my life, and how important the relationship was. And because of certain events that went down in specifically in my high school and junior high, coming to terms with God and making a personal decision myself, I came here with what I could say, well, in my opinion, is a pretty good relationship with Him, that's only grown deeper through my studies of the Scripture and through my time in discussion with my peers and faculty. I think I had a good relationship with the other students. I could sit with them and joke with them, do activities with them, have deep discussions about my personal life or the scriptures and theology with them. The house system and my interaction with the other members of my house was a bit crazy at times, because though my brother was one of the members in my house and he was the one we elected as our leader for the government system that we created, all three of us had vastly different opinions on everything, vastly different personalities. Each person had a different opinion of what we should do, what events we should hold for the rest of the students and faculty. And but as a whole, we really meshed really well, because we were all a bunch of weirdo homeschool kids. So I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the time I spent with my house members. Because of our differences in opinions, but as a whole, I think we meshed really well together. I think our varying personalities and interests and varying stages of competitiveness really helped us with dealing with each other and with dealing with other houses and competitions and stuff. We were constantly pushing each other to do a little bit better, but at the same time, it's all for fun, it's all a game, and we're members of the same house at the end of the evening. I mean, so I think I was matched with a very good house. Probably one of my favorite things here at the school. Partially because we came in second place every year until this year, which we finally took first place. The house games were a major recreational break from the stresses and the workload of school life. Papers, homework, school book readings and all would be put down for a couple hours of major competitiveness and all around tomfoolery. I could say make a plan for yourself and stick with it. It took me all 4 years till I figured that out and finally set something up that really worked with me and kept me on top of my projects my senior year. I took a fairly varied course schedule of academic classes in general. I took Bible knowledge classes, theology classes, my personal favorites, the languages and the world religions and cults type classes. My personal favorites, basically anything to do with cultural anthropology. The languages, the religions, everything that gave me a better understanding of other people and the beliefs of other people. And I think this also included Wesleyan experience, where when we went to the different churches, to different denominations, and studied them. Wesleyan experience was my favorite course, most likely because of the way it was set up. It's a discussion course and also a personal development course. It requires you to think critically, to be able to defend your answers, to see people, to see things from other people's perspectives, and to acknowledge that you don't have all the answers. And so I think that's the reason that's my favorite class. Two major ways. One would be the practical knowledge that I've received. Being able to go into a room or have a discussion with someone and be able to answer with strength and conviction, and be able to defend my answers or defend my beliefs or discuss other people's beliefs and not look like a total idiot who just believes what he's been told or what he's read somewhere without further evidence or logical reasoning behind it. And the second thing would be further application of my scholastic and academic research, paper writing, public speaking, and logical ordering of my thoughts, and use of proper citation in any of the academic writing that I do. I'm not sure if I can fairly answer and give a good rating for how I feel the academics is, because I feel the academics is as strong as you're willing to take it, because all of the faculty have high levels of knowledge, are very good at explaining the knowledge and giving it in an orderly and logical manner. But at the same time, there's so much more there than they'll necessarily give you, and how much effort you put in your studies yourself will really depend on how much you take out of it. So, from a 1 out of 10, I'd put it easily at between 8 and 10, depending on how much effort you're going to put into it. I think you have a bit of everything here. The professors range from mildly absent-minded to there's so much knowledge you're burned out at the end of the class and you're not sure if your hand will still write notes at the end of the 3-hour period. But all of them easy to talk to, very invested in your life, and very interested in you personally. If there's an issue going on in your personal life, bring it forward to them. They'll pray for you. They'll keep it in mind if you're having trouble. They'll give you a couple extra days to finish a project if they know that there's something major going on in your life. At the same time, they'll also push you to do better. If they know that you're only putting in half the amount of effort that you honestly could be. If your answers are so much deeper in class than what you're putting in your papers, they're going to know that you're not really trying when it comes to the homework. At the same time, because they know you personally, they work their class around what your long-term goal is as well. For me, I want to do a lot of teaching and Bible studies and ministry out of a coffee shop. And so they bring that into the class. They use it as an example and make you think deeply about how can you apply this to your long-term goal. I like them all pretty much equally for different reasons. Dr. Bailey and Brian Garner, because their classes were very much a discussion class, and they played the devil's advocate, and so you actually had to argue with them on things that they believed on, but were just being difficult on anyway. Dr. Ricketts, because he's exceptionally knowledgeable in everything. related to apologetics, world religions, and defending the faith. Jeremy Andrews, because though he's a faculty and a teacher, he also feels like a peer. He's very much a huge nerd. I could talk about my hobbies with him, and he could talk about his hobbies, which were essentially the same thing. So there's almost a student to student bond as well as a student to faculty bond there. Dr. Sawyer, very knowledgeable theologically. One of those professors that if you ask a question he doesn't know, he's not afraid to say he doesn't know, and then he'll find out and tell you the next class you're in. And Dr. Hall was probably the most entertaining of all the professors. A bit absent-minded, but again, super knowledgeable in all things New Testament related. I think the number one thing I appreciate from my time here at BLI is the foundation it gave me. This will probably come up again, but the time I spent here gave me a reason to believe what I do, and not just something my parents told me, something I was told I needed to believe, but I have logical and scientific reasons to believe it. I have my own personal relation with God and how it's grown here that caused me to believe it. And I think that foundation, more than anything else, is the most precious thing I received on my time here. Probably the extracurricular, just recreational activities I did here at the school, be it with the professors or with the students. There's a couple nights that we played horror video games as a group and tried to scare each other and all. There's other nights that I played D&D with the faculty and other students. And it was, I think these are important to me because it showed that this isn't just school for me. This wasn't just a place where I got academics thrown at me, but a place where I made personal relationships with the people teaching me and with the people I was learning with. I think the personal growth was one of the things I least expected while I was here. When I came to BLI, I just finished getting my degree in culinary arts and had no idea where I was going with my life. Coming here, I started studying scripture more seriously than I ever had in the past. Getting a foundation for myself, learning to defend what I believe, and learning why I believe it. And after my second year here at BLI, I went and worked at a camp, and I applied all these to the students I was working with. And I learned that I have a love for teaching. I have a love for working with high school through college age students, and just discussing and teaching, answering their questions. So it was very mind-opening for me for who I am, even. My walk has been stressed throughout my life, from loving God to straight out fearing Him because of the judging, all-powerful, all-knowing, has seen every dark moment of my life being that He is, to a better understanding of God as a whole. He's not merely that. He's also, the reason He is the judging God that He is because He holds us to a standard, because He loves us. And that was a huge thing for me, which I'd figured it out in high school, but it wasn't until I started really studying here at BLI that it clicked in my head. Yeah. I have a tumor. It's true. All right. The change in me personally has probably have to do with my focus and my long-term goals. Before, I was looking for a stable full-time job somewhere, making enough money to put food on the table, to pay my bills, and spend time with family. Now my long-term goals are a bit more detailed. The money and paying my bills is kind of secondary. I want to teach. I want to work with students. I want to answer their questions. I want to give them the foundation that I've been given. And that's very different for me because I'm not an outgoing person. I'd rather spend my entire day in my room with a book than go out and talk to people. But now if there's a group of students I can work with and I'm put in charge of, I'll sit there and just talk with them and hang out and teach for as long as they want to listen and ask questions. I think spending any amount of time in a single place will change your opinion of it in some ways. I feel like I got more out of the school than I expected. Again, I've been part of the church my whole life. My dad has always questioned us and tried to further our understanding of the scripture, the theology and the doctrine that we believe, but it never really stuck. And so I feel like when I first came to BLI, I felt it was a school. It was a building, place I'd be living for the next couple years, sporadically. But now that I'm looking at leaving, I feel like I'm moving. I'm leaving from my old home, my old friends, my old job, to a new and uncertain place. Because this has very much become my home. I know every room of it. I know its quirks, its good and annoying sides, being too hot or too cold in the same day, windows that don't quite necessarily close and so bugs still crawling around the edge of your screen, but it's home. So I definitely feel like my opinion of the school has changed since the first day I came and the day before I leave. My first impression on the faculty was the faculty. They're teachers, they're instructors who are going to be demanding homework and giving out tests and what have you. I didn't expect them to invest in my life the way they did. I didn't expect to spend my recreational time hanging out with them, playing board games with them, and getting to know them and their lives personally as well. Probably the best decision I ever made. I don't think I could trade out my experiences here and the knowledge and memories that I've made here for anything else. My medical knowledge, through the military, my military time, my culinary arts background, all just built up to me being here. And I'd trade all of it if I had to choose between going to BLI and those other memories. Most definitely. BLI, more than any other school, especially because of how small it is, it's as much about the academics as it is the community. Like I've mentioned earlier, the student life, the faculty, the environment in general pulls everybody close together. You get to know everybody. And again, it gives you a foundation because you'll be forced to ask yourself questions. You'll be asked questions and you'll be forced to give answers, which will all build who you're going to be. And you'll find, you'll leave here with a knowledge of this is what I believe. And nothing's really going to change that. I think it depends on the academic school, more so than anything else. A lot of secular schools, though they teach very specific and very in-depth studies, they seem to be more closed-minded than Christian schools. A Christian education makes you aware of all the other opinions. They defend their own opinions, but in the long run, it's up to you to decide which one you stand for. Specifically here at BLI, you can argue with the professors. You'll state your opinion, and they'll state their opinion. You'll probably be wrong, but it's entertaining, and either way, you learn something. Whether you walk away disagreeing with them still, or whether you agree with them. My personal goal for after graduation, I want to get a job at a cafe somewhere, learn the business, and then start my own, and then preferably off the side of a college campus somewhere, and work missions off of it. I want to do retreats, teach Bible studies, get involved in student life, and become active in the other Christian organizations that are around the campus or in the community, because I feel it's not necessarily that we need more organizations, but we need more people involved. I don't necessarily want to be part of a big organization like Crew or CCO, but I want to work with them hand in hand, create opportunities for them, more outlets to work with, so that they can reach more students and, again, give more people the foundation that I received here at BLI. Come to BLI, try it out. Honestly, like I've said earlier, it's the best experience I've ever had in my life. Even if you just came for 1 year for the Wesleyan Experience course, to get that foundation, to be challenged and learn how to defend yourself and give answers and find that foundation for yourself on what you believe. Just give it a chance. My name is Christopher Thomas Kennedy, graduating class of 2017. Good luck, follow God's plan, and I hope that plan involves time here at BLI.